The Neo Geo MVS and AES enjoyed one of the longest lifespans for any arcade or home system, lasting an incredible 14 years from 1990 to 2004. During its run, 148 titles were released for the Neo Geo MVS, with 117 of them officially getting a home release for the AES. These games were known for their large sprites, scaling, highly detailed and colorful graphics, over-the-top gameplay, and rocking audio. The Neo Geo carved out its identity in the fighting game genre, cranking out fighters with varied gameplay features such as the plane switching of Fatal Fury, the massive sprites and the introduction of desperation moves from The Art of Fighting, the weapons-based combat from Samurai Showdown and The Last Blade, and the 3 vs 3 battles for the King of Fighters. Some of these series continue to see new releases to this day. In 1996, a small group, Nazca, developed the run-and-gun shooter Metal Slug, which stood out with its detailed cartoon-like characters and vehicles, along with fluid animation. 5 additional Metal Slug titles were released for the Neo Geo. Because of the popularity of both their fighters and the Metal Slug series, many other Neo Geo games often get overlooked. Recent Neo Geo console releases such as the Arcade Stick Pro and the MVS-X have lineups dominated by games from these two areas. This has furthered the perception from casual Neo Geo fans and observers that the system does not have a diverse lineup of games. Fighting and Metal Slug games do make up a sizable percentage of the Neo Geo library, a little under 40%. While I do enjoy these two kinds of games, I also enjoy the titles representing the other 60% of the system's library. I know that many others share this sentiment. Hey everybody, my fellow YouTubers have joined me in this collaboration to discuss Neo Geo games we enjoy that are not fighters or Metal Slug. By no means is this a top tier list. We're here to showcase games that demonstrate the Neo Geo's diversity. Now some of the games you're going to see in this video are well known, but others aren't. This is a great way to expose viewers to games they may not have known about. Without further ado, let's get this show started.
Alright, it's Game Escape here, and I wanted to talk about Neo Turf Masters. In my opinion, one of the best sports games for the Neo Geo. Now for me, one of the critical factors in developing a great sports game is communicating some of the feel and strategy of the actual sport while still being fun and accessible as a game. And Neo Turf Masters is, I think, a game that accomplishes this task beautifully. It takes the admittedly rather plodding game of golf, reduces it to its most important elements, and repackages it as a fast-paced, accessible, and fun arcade game that is worthy of your quarters. And while I only vaguely remember playing it back in the day, as an adult, I can really appreciate what the developers accomplished here. The game was released to arcades in 1996 by Nazca. Now, this is the same company that produced the Metal Slug series. It was actually subsequently acquired by SNK, and like the Metal Slug series, Neo Turf Masters is an example of a finely crafted, sprite-based game. It has gorgeously animated, quasi-digitized players, great-looking courses, and a relaxed and catchy soundtrack. Now, although the game came out really at the tail end of the sprite-based graphical era, I would argue that it's actually more fun to play than other 3D golf games that were coming out around the same time, which often featured blocky, unconvincing, polygonal courses and players and very long load times. Think Pebble Beach Golf Links with Craig Statler, a classic on the Sega Saturn. In fact, I think this holds up as one of the best non-3D sports games of all time, and I think it's still in the conversation for one of the most fun, if not the best, video game representation of golf. Now, I realize that's a bold claim, and to back it up, I would really need to go into detail into how the shot control system contributes to the game's greatness. But at a very basic level, the game plays fast, and it mimics, in a stylized arcade format, the interplay of nerves, skill, and dexterity that is actually required when playing golf in real life, where the slightest misfire of a muscle fiber in a pressure situation can screw up your timing and your shots. And because of that, Neo Turf Masters can be frustrating at times, but it's a game that makes you always want to play one more hole.
Hey everyone, this is Jason from Kinda Cool Productions helping out NeoTurboManiac with 10 great titles on the Neo Geo that aren't fighting games. Now the Neo Geo isn't necessarily known for having a multitude of traditional side-scrolling platformers in the same vein as a Mario or a Sonic, but that doesn't mean that there weren't any. In 1991, Alpha Denti released Blues Journey on the AES and the MVS. The title was known as Raggy in Japan and would later be ported to the Neo Geo CD in Japan and the US in 94 and 96 respectively. This game is a true side-scrolling platformer which stars Blue, an anthropomorphic insect, as the main protagonist, while player 2 can join in to play simultaneously as Princess Fa. The plot of Blue's Journey is essentially one of environmental destruction. The natural beauty of the planet Raggy has been destroyed by bad guys and it's up to Blue to save everything. An idea similar to one found in Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis, which actually wouldn't release until several months after Blue's Journey hit the arcades, so you can't accuse this particular title of ripping off a rival's idea. The first thing you will notice is the huge pop of color throughout the game. The graphics are bright, cheerful, and overall create a pleasant pick-up-and-play vibe. This may be one of the most colorful Neo Geo titles, only rivaled by the likes of Twinkle Star Sprites. The controls are relatively simple. B button jumps, A button performs an attack with a leaf which can stun an opponent, where A can then be used again to pick up the stunned enemy and hurl them in like a projectile weapon. The C button is one of the game's unique play mechanics in that it will actually shrink Blue down to roughly half his size. This will allow him to fit into places that are normally too small for him, often leading to secret areas for additional power-ups, weapons, or bonus items. The boss battles are where this game truly shines. The bosses themselves are created with large detailed sprites and the battles are enjoyable. Some of the boss designs are eerily reminiscent of what we'd see years later in games like Mega Man X and Clay Fighter. There are branching paths available to get to the final level, and this adds an element of strategy to the experience, as well as offering up replay value after completing the game. Overall, Blues Journey is an excellent entry into the Neo Geo library and one that I feel is a bit underrated. Think of Bonk on the TurboGrafx 16, add a dash of play mechanics from the US Super Mario Bros. 2 or Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, mix in a heavy dose of trippy psychedelic zaniness, and you get Blues Journey. Seriously, what's not to like?
What up, fight fans? This is your boy Chaos, and my game of choice for this video is none other than Blazing Star. Blazing Star was developed by Yumi Kobo and published by SNK in 1998 for the Neo Geo MVS and AES system. This is a follow-up to Polestar, so you know it features furious action, and just like its predecessor, it boasts some of the best graphics on the system. The 346 mech count ensured the game took advantage of the Neo Geo's hardware and delivered beautiful graphics, colorful backgrounds, special effects, and a nice music score. The constant moving backgrounds, parallax scrolling, and enemies coming in and out of the play area will have your Neo Geo screaming bonus while you are breaking nice perfecting this side-scrolling classic. In Blazing Star, you can pilot 6 different ships, each with their own attributes such as different shot types, power, and speed sets. My favorite ship to pilot is the Dino 246, making its return from Polestar. For this shooter, you only use the joystick to maneuver the ship and 2 buttons, A and B, to fire the ship's weapons. Tap A rapidly for a normal shot, hold down A to store energy. Once the meter is at its full capacity, let it go for a charged shot. Pressing B during the charged shot will split the projectile, resulting in more damage to the enemy. There are power-ups which appear throughout the level, which increase the strength of the ship's guns and the maximum power of the charge shot. The type of shots, charge-up attacks, and split shots depend on the ship you select, so select wisely. The game, it has a pretty cool point system, which is not as complex like in other shooters. There are also items found throughout the stage that increase the player's score and count towards their ranking at the end of each stage. These items include power-ups, blue-like diamonds, and letter panels that spell the word lucky. Each stage ends with a boss fight, which the player must complete in the allotted time to get bonus points added to their score at the end of each stage. Blazing Star has some amazing stages, set pieces that are still remembered to this day. The game has 7 bosses. While all the bosses have some amazing sprites, I can always remember my fights with the 3rd stage boss called End. The Stage 3 encounter has you fighting this machine and the temptation of not becoming distracted by the amazing backgrounds and atmosphere this encounter produces. The encounter begins as he is trying to flee the facility. You follow the machine all the way out into space, all while shots are firing back and forth. Parts of the machine are flying, detailing the damage you are dealing. He finally makes it out of the ship. He is trying to escape to a nearby planet, fighting for his escape. You follow him into the planet's atmosphere, hitting the machine with all you got. You notice that both you and the machine are bursting into flames. You know you must end this fight now. This is the spiritual successor to Polestar, and a must-own classic.
Top Hunter is a unique case. The game is a hybrid between a side-scrolling platformer, beat 'em up with fighting game style maneuvers as quote hidden bounty hunter moves, and it is non-linear. Now why is this cause for celebration? Well, the most noteworthy feature about this game is that you get a choice between 4 different worlds with 3 levels each. Unless you're playing it on the multi-video system, you only play 2 levels per world. For example, if you choose the first world, you'll play the first level, taking you straight to the boss level to the end. After the first planet has been taken care of, you will, from that point and beyond, play on the second level, taking you to the boss level afterward, until you reach the Great Clapton once all 4 planets are ousted of the Clapton Pirates. However, for the case of this game, we're not here to talk about the arcade iteration, but rather the home versions, whether it be on Home Cart AES or on CD. Here you get to play all the levels from the get-go. Within said levels you will find chains to pull down for additional time, food items, and even traps like bombs and Big Iron, Big Iron. Whilst on the subject about weapons, of course you can take the Brute's guns that are limited to 6 rounds before discarding them as a weapon in of themselves. While the game may not exactly be the closest thing to a run and gun a la Metal Slug, a very notable trait aside from the power-ups are the robo-vehicles scattered about each level. The robo-vehicles act as a means of protection, but you can immediately lose it if it comes into contact with fire, thus causing it to overheat and explode. Strewn about each level are hidden bonus games that can help boost your score. Some can be obvious, while others may require a bit of combing about. Can you find them all? The non-linear nature of Top Hunter brings up a very good point not every critic brings up whenever this game is discussed. Something the Neo Geo itself is sorely lacking outside Metal Slug 3, and that is replayability. What secrets can you find on your initial run through? What can be done to increase your high score? All these answers and more will be unveiled once you play Top Hunter Roddy and Cathy. This is a game I highly recommend, even with the Neo Geo CD and its excellent Red Book audio soundtrack. Come into this title with an open mind. You won't be disappointed.
What up, gamers? This is Glynn the Gamer Goat, responding to NeoTurboManiac's question, what is your favorite Neo Geo MVS game that's not a fighter or Metal Slug? For those of you that follow my channel, you already know without a doubt that that game is the 1995 release of Polestar by Icon. Now, the gameplay is similar to R-Type. Icon is a Japanese developer founded by former employees of Irem. So Irem basically, back in the day, was a killer when they made R-Type, you know, an R-Type 2, R-Type 3, R-Type Leo. So and those were the games I was into back then. I was into the 16-bit graphics games like TurboGrafx, Genesis, Super Nintendo. So for me, Polestar was basically just better R-Type, you know, an extension of R-Type, because it was the same developers, you know, and also the graphics were 3D rendered, which were the first 3D rendering ever done by SNK. So that's why I highly recommend this game. I really love this game. This is my favorite shooter on the Neo for the MVS. See, I got it on the AES and the CD and everything too, but it's also just my favorite game, period. It's my favorite shooter as well as my favorite game. So, you know, when the developers developed the game, it was also known as codename Project Dino, and Dino is the name of the ship as well. So Polestar, if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend that you do. I believe it's the best shooter on the Neo Geo, and it's definitely worth giving it a try. It's hard as heck, but it's worth it. This is Glynn the Gamer Goat. Until next time, peace.
Hey guys, my name is Mike. I run a small YouTube channel called Mike7599 where I talk a lot about Neo Geo and SNK stuff. So there is a major misconception that Neo Geo was a system that only had fighting games or Metal Slug. So we thought it was cool to put something together to showcase some other gems of the system. And there were many gems of the system. So my pick that I wanted to show you guys is Alpha Mission 2, coming in at 47 megs. This was one of the original titles for the Neo Geo. It came out on the MVS March 25th, 1991, and on the AES, it came out July 1st, 91. Also known in Japan as ASO2, or Armored Scrum Object 2. Rolls right off the tongue. It was the sequel to the 1985 SNK released ASO. Great vertical scrolling shooter, great soundtrack, very addicting, super fun game. I mean, I think the graphics for its day really showcased what the Neo Geo was capable of. It's a great game. I highly recommend it if you guys haven't seen it. Great soundtrack, the graphics are awesome, the power-ups are phenomenal. It's cool how you can choose different controls for your ship, and I always seem to find myself picking up Alpha Mission 2 whenever I'm looking through my Neo Geo library. I always come back to this one, so highly recommend it. Check it out, guys, and on to the next reviewer.
Street Slam, or Street Hoop, or Dunk Dream, the name depends on your region, is a Neo Geo 3-on-3 basketball game that was released in 1994 and developed by Data East. You start off the game by selecting a team from a list of 10 locations. Depending on what region your Neo Geo is from, the list of teams will either vary from different countries, or in the case of US Neo Geos, the teams will be from US cities. It's hard to ignore the similarities to NBA Jam, especially when this game was released about a year after NBA Jam. But there are enough differences to make the game stand on its own. Gameplay is pretty simple. Only 2 buttons are used. On offense, the A button shoots or dunks, and the B button passes the ball. On defense, A blocks and B steals. There are no fouls in this game, so feel free to hack away your opponent if you want the ball back. Baskets are worth 2 points, and worth 3 points if your player is behind the 3-point line. The more baskets you make, the more your super shot meter fills up. And when it's full, you can perform a special dunk or a special shot. There's not much depth to the single player game. You have to go through all the teams in the game to eventually play a final championship game. There is no season or a real playoff mode. Where this game really shines is the 2-player mode. It's really fun playing against a friend, and the game is simple enough that anyone with some basketball knowledge will be able to pick it up real quickly. The games are also quick. There are 2 halves with each half lasting less than 2 minutes. The game may say 2 minutes, but the in-game seconds are much quicker than real life seconds. You can increase the time, but I like the quickness of the games. It lets you and a friend quickly play a couple of games without worrying about the complexities of a real basketball simulation. While I wish the single player mode had more depth to it, it's definitely a game you should check out for its 2-player mode alone.
Jump shot. Turnover. Half court shot.
Alright, yo, Jav here. Yo, check it. So for me, this game, I didn't play growing up in arcades. I played a lot of arcade games, but this one right here, I played Samurai Showdown and others from the Neo, but this one I never played. So when I started collecting for the Neo a few years ago, I was watching top 50, top 10 videos, and this one was mentioned in a lot of them. So I was like, alright, cool. And I saw the first and the second were nice, but this one is just like way better. So I'm like, they changed it up, but this is the epitome of what I love from the arcades. Big sprites, beautiful colors. It was just lovely. So that's what it's all about for me growing up playing in the arcades. I had my Atari growing up, but hitting arcades was what it was all about for me. Double Dragon. And this character right here, he looks like one of my favorites. Strider. Strider, hurt you? Hurt you? However you say it. So yeah, that's my take on this game. And a lot of people feel the way I feel as far as loving this game. And actually, this is the first one I played out of the trilogy. I have the other two. But when my man, the maniacal turbo dude, when he asked for people to help with his video, and I was like, this came to mind, I was like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity to play this and share it with the people. Alright, so that's it, I'm out. Peace.
Hiya, I am the Kaylied Gamer. You can call me Darren. Now, this video is just to showcase one of my favourite Neo Geo games, and that is Neo Drift Out. Now, this got a release on Neo CD and MVS. Never got an AES release, but check it out if you can because it's a great game. So, Neo Drift Out, new technology. You've got a choice of 3 cars or 3 vehicles. You've got the Mitsubishi Lancer, the Subaru Impreza. You've also got the Toyota Sleeker. It's a great Neo Geo game, some of my favourite Neo Geo games. It's quite simple to play. It's an above view, offset isometric rally game. You've got to choose 3 vehicles, and you've got over several different types of terrain you can race over. So you've got like a mountain stage. You've got the desert stages and such. It's easy to control left, right, brake, accelerate. It's a really impressive zooming feature on the graphics. It's very fast paced, very arcadey. Yeah, it's a great game. It's such a great arcade feel to it. Say different stages. Is the African stage.
some great car sound effects. So choice of three cars, different stages as well, different types of terrain to tackle. It's a really classy game.
Okay, so that was Neo Drift Out on the MVS. Check it out.
Cyberlip. I first heard of this game by seeing a screenshot of it in the back of a gaming magazine. I'm not sure if it was one of those contests that they always have in the back there and it was on the TV screen, or it was the famous one that everybody knows about, the one with the phallic looking boss. Years later I finally found out its name. When I heard Cyberlip I was like, really, that's its name? Sounds like the name of a porno.
Yeah, you big silly ass. Just wrap your lips around me and take a big gulp.
This game came out in 1990, the first year of the Neo Geo, and the only year where there wasn't a fighting game on the system. This is a run-and-gun shooter. The story from the opening of the game.
The federal government installed a supercomputer in Colony CO5 to control the androids. Android military troops were made and trained against the invading aliens. The federal military had reduced their soldiers and become weakened. The fruits of man's intelligence have gone out of control.
So without a human military, it's up to 2 hired mercenaries to shut down the Cyberlip. There are 7 levels in this game, and a few sub-levels if you make the wrong choice on the elevator. Now the choices are randomized, so there's no 100% way to avoid these sub-levels. This game gets compared to Metal Slug, the other run-and-gun game for the Neo Geo, though I like this game better. Starting with its art style, I like that it has references to movies such as The Terminator, Aliens, Planet of the Apes / Escape from New York. Now people complain this game has no diagonal shooting, but neither did Metal Slug, but nobody ever seems to complain about that. The only thing you had in that game was you can arc your shots when you had the machine gun, and you waste that precious ammo. But to alleviate not having diagonals, this game has a weapon where you can do a wide shot, similar to Contra. But unlike Contra, the weapon's a bit nerfed. Instead of doing a single blast with all the pellets coming out, it sprays out like a machine gun. I guess developers did that so it wouldn't be too easy beating the game with the spread like in the Contra games. In this game you get to keep your ammo when you die, so if you die on a boss, it won't be a pain in the ass trying to kill him with just a pistol. And also you get multiple weapons in this game, as opposed to just carrying the one in Metal Slug.
Reloading magazine completed.
I like they got it right in this game. They called it a magazine instead of a clip, to make it easy for you to remember the difference. If it has a spring, it's a magazine. If it doesn't have a spring, it's a clip. I highly recommend this game. I'm even trying to get the real deal game on the AS, but I keep getting outbid.
Alright, to finish things off, I'm going to include a puzzle game, one that isn't very popular and has mostly received negative coverage, so there have been a few favorable reviews, but it's a game that I enjoy and that's what this is about, and that is Joy Joy Kid, also known as Puzzled. At 22 megabits, this 1990 SNK developed title has the lowest meg count for the Neo Geo, but it probably has the longest adventure for any game on the system, with 120 levels of mind-challenging action. The plot is quite bizarre. 2 villages, one consisting of men and the other women, have been at war for years, leaving only the children and the elderly as survivors. To stop the fighting, the sun god erects a tower which blocks sunlight to both villages. Each village sends a child into their tower to plead with the sun god to restore light. Puzzled shares similar traits with Tetris. For both games, you must clear blocks by forming lines using falling tetrominoes. On the other hand, Puzzled has a different objective. You must clear preset block patterns that surround your character who is in a hot air balloon so that they can ascend to the top of the floor. The speed of the falling blocks intensifies if you take too long to complete a level. There are obstacles that interfere with the character's ascent, such as lightning rods, regenerating blocks, and floating mines. As you make lines, a lightning ball meter fills up, which is used to zap blocks that surround the player. What really sets Puzzled apart from Tetris is that when lines are made, all blocks above those lines will drop and fill any empty spaces below, which could form additional lines creating chain reactions. The appealing factor of Puzzled is a challenge. This is a very difficult game. The complex block layouts combined with the fast drop speed of the blocks and the uncertainty of getting that block you need to make a chain reaction can make it intimidating for new players. I had a tough time with it myself when I first played it. What I realized is that you must get the Tetris mindset out of your system. It's not always about perfectly fitting the falling blocks with the ones in the field. It's more about the strategy of stacking blocks to create the chain reactions to free your character. Once you get the hang of that, you'll realize how different Puzzled is from Tetris. Once you get accustomed to the gameplay, you will crave the more challenging puzzles. With 120 levels, there's no shortage of the types of puzzles you will conquer. The best moments are when I go from one block away from defeat to clearing the stage. Those moments catch me by surprise and I experience a huge sigh of relief. I like the lighthearted interactions between the characters and the gods, even with the spelling errors. I also like that there's a definitive objective to this game. I know that the graphics and audio are far from the best of what the Neo Geo has to offer, but there's enough variety in both. As a fan of puzzle games, it provides a high level of challenge, which at times can seem unfair, but I pull through and feel satisfied whenever I complete this game. I also enjoy games that are based on more popular titles, especially if they provide gameplay that is different. Therefore, I don't think of Puzzled as merely a Tetris clone, but as a fun alternative to it. I want to thank everybody that put in the time and effort to make this collaboration happen. Links to their channels will be in the description. While it's great that the Neo Geo has an identity when it comes to the type of games that they have, but we wanted to show the viewers that the Neo Geo has a lot more to offer than just fighting games and Metal Slug. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.